What's up, guys? My name's Andy. I'm just making another yapping video talking about Pokemon, and this one I'm just gonna talk about like why I think this whole IP is just so big. It's just so massive, and where I think a lot of the some other TCGs are either there's other TCGs that are not quite hitting the mark or are succeeding, and let's just talk about that. So with Pokemon, it's like, dude, Pokemon has so many different, it's such a multifaceted IP. The video games that come out consistently, even though I think that the games are not really even that good quality. I don't really think that they're that great, to be honest, but people still play them and people still love them. And I think the sales numbers tell a different story, right? So in Nintendo's eyes, all they see is dollar signs. So they're just going to keep making the same crap and people are going to continue to buy the same crap. So I don't know, but the fact is, though, is that you have other forms of media that are funneling in players and people into the Pokemon universe, you know? You also have things like promotionals that they do with McDonald's. Here, let me switch the scene here. So look at these promotionals, right? So like since 2011, have they done any more? No. Okay, so like starting at 2011, they've done a promotion thing with McDonald's for quite a while. I mean, that was an 8-year streak that they did something with McDonald's. There was a recent one, I think, I want to say 2020, what was that, 2024 or something like that, and there was a whole craze about that. And I think even 2025 there was another one. I don't know if that's listed here. The thing about Pokemon also is that they have other games, like on, not even on just consoles, but then on phone, right? So like with the trading card game that came out, or it's like that TCG game that came out, I think like a year or two ago, where it just emulates, you know, you're like making a deck, and you know, like that got a lot of people into it. I didn't even know about it, and then my coworkers actually told me about that TCG game, and I found myself downloading it, and like, you know, they got you ripping packs and this and that. I'm like, oh, jeez, man, it's hitting all the right parts of the brain, you know, for opening packs and getting the thrill. And it's like, oh, I got a dud, it's like, oh, I got a hit, you know. It's so you have phone game apps, you have video games, you have promotionals, you have also the TV show. I don't know if they do movies anymore. I don't know, you guys can probably tell me like when the last time a movie came out. But I remember like a really long time ago, I went to see, I think it was one of the movies, and I remember getting like a promo card with it, and I was like, wow, this is like amazing, you know? And I love showing off that promo card in my binder whenever, you know, people were flipping through it or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the one I got in the movie, you know? I always loved, I love adding a little, you know, because when cards have stories behind them, I'm all for that. I actually really, really like that. It adds a lot more value to the card, you know? It's like, you guys already know probably why Pokemon is so big and why I think it continues to just continues to dominate. Another game I want to look at, or another TCG I want to look at, is it's Riftbound. So the League of Legends TCG that came out recently, and there's a lot of attention on this too. I learned how to play. I think the cards are pretty cool. And, you know, this is another kind of, you know, another TCG where it's like they have other forms of media that are like huge funnels of getting people into the IP. I think this is going to pop off too. I honestly think so. I learned how to play recently. I like it, and I think it's cool. I think that you're going to get, again, this is another IP where you have different funnels, right? Where you had the... what was that? The K-pop Demon Hunters or whatever, and then you had the movie or that TV show. What was that called? I haven't even seen it yet. There's like a TV show. Obviously, the game is like insane. You know, the thing about League of Legends and Pokemon in terms of like similarities is that you have a lot of young people that played and engaged with the IP. When you get young people into stuff, they tend to stay there, and not only, even if a young person drifts into a hobby and then they fall out of it for some time, the value is the fact that they can come back to the hobby, right? And still feel huge nostalgia. And that is so, so powerful. I want to take a look at, there's another TCG I have my eyes on, Star Wars Unlimited. I actually think this game is really cool. I really think that on a game design level, it is fantastic. But unfortunately, I don't think the Star Wars IP is really that popular amongst young people these days. I really don't think so. And it's unfortunate, because I think, like, when I was growing up, an IP like Star Wars was just massive. Everybody knew it, and the movies were awesome, you know? And now I think Disney essentially just killed the IP. I honestly think so. I think the IP now is very, very mid, and I think kids only see the newest thing and then they make their assessment on it. You know, they're like, oh, well, that wasn't very good, so I'm gonna move on. You know, I don't know if I can't get the impression that kids learn about an IP, and if they're not excited about it, they're not gonna all of a sudden explore like the older movies. Why would they, right? So I think, like, it's really unfortunate, because, like, I think an IP like Star Wars, I think this is just going to continue to be niche. And it's unfortunate because I think the game design on one-on-one is so good. I think it's such a great design. But I just think that it's just not going to be as popular as something like a Riftbound or a Pokemon or even like a One Piece. Which kind of sucks, because, like, I'm more of a player than a collector, because I love Magic. And so then coming back into Magic, the thing about Magic is that it doesn't have any other funnel that is getting people into the game. Now, obviously, they have the Magic the Gathering game, card game, right? But, like, they don't have any other thing. They don't have a TV show. They don't have a movie. They don't have even another video game where you could play the characters, right? Like, you don't have a game where you're playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, or you're playing Chandra or something like that. And so you're not really funneling in other people into the space. So it's like people that knew the cards are going to continue just playing with the cards, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get a video game, you're not going to get the person who likes adventure games into the card game. You see what I'm saying? You might not get the person who really just loves watching movies and TV shows into the card game. They just continually cater to people playing the card game. And I think this is actually one of Magic's like negatives, I think. When you just compare it to like other ecosystems when talking about TCGs. You know, the other thing about Magic is that, like, it's a little bit more mature. So it's not as cute and bubbly as it is Pokemon, right? Like, Pokemon is like, it's just younger, right? It's not as mature as Magic, not as PG-13 kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like because of Magic's kind of mature universe, it's not able to pull as much of the younger crowd. And the problem there is that if you're not pulling the younger crowd, you're not able to feed off of the nostalgic factor later on. I'm not saying that young people cannot get into Magic. I'm not saying that. There's young people getting into card games all the time. But in terms of likability, relatability, I feel like more kids are prone to getting into something like Pokemon than they would Magic. But every kid is different. I think I'm just speaking in generalities, right? I feel like Pokemon has a much better collectability value than something like Magic or Star Wars. The thing about Magic and Star Wars is that these are ecosystems where the players are playing the game. And so the prices of cards are going to be very closely linked to how playable they are in tournament or in at your Friday Night Magics or whatever it is, whether a card is in rotation or not. These kinds of things matter a lot more in something like Star Wars and Magic than something like Pokemon. Now, I'm not saying it's not a factor in Pokemon. I'm not too familiar with the competitive TCG side of Pokemon cards. I don't want to discount that, but I do think that any competitive space in a larger ecosystem is inevitably going to be more niche, and because of that fact, the collector is going to be a more majority demographic, and I really think that. And I think in Pokemon, I think we see that. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's honestly just really what I really feel like in Pokemon, that the majority of the people engaged in the space are collectors. I feel like collectors outnumber the competitive players. I'm just kind of yapping. That's all. But yeah, throw me a like, leave me a comment. Please tell me I'm ugly or something. Really help the algorithm. So that's it. See you guys in the next one. Peace.